Welcome to Podcast Shorts, a shorter version of the podcast you know and love. I'm Alex, and today we're going to do a little bit of movie discussion, contemplate some things that are happening in the industry. But before I get into that, some breaking news that will probably be a day or two old by the time this post is that Disney has announced that their Marvel and Star Wars properties, their big flagship properties, are going to move to their streaming service officially and end their relationship with Netflix starting in 2019 or whenever the contract expires. This is huge news, and if you have seen one of my most recent podcast shorts, I discussed this in a little bit more detail. I'm just going to do it in passing now, but I wanted to follow up with that story. Star Wars and Marvel will officially be a part of the new Disney streaming service that has not yet been named or has not yet been priced. So look out for that starting in 2019. I'm sure that will be very interesting in conjunction with whatever else they offer. Speaking of those big properties, those big tentpole films and franchises, and also kind of piggybacking on John Hill's video from the podcast live that he did on our Facebook fan page, which you can also go and check out, facebook.com/PowcastPodcast. Definitely check us out. A small plug there. Check us out if you haven't already. But anyway, he pretty much discussed the complication between young directors and filmmakers and artists practically, and their relationship with these big tentpole movies and how they have a story that they're trying to tell. And if you're not hopping on the corporate bandwagon, you pretty much get shoved aside. And we're seeing that a lot more. Marvel has ran into some issues with that, with not only signing directors, but with some previous projects. Star Wars, we're seeing that a whole lot more with Kathleen Kennedy getting rid of the directors for the Han Solo single standalone, and also now recently Colin Trevorrow, the previous director of Jurassic World, who was initially signed on to do episode 9. He was also supposed to write it as well, and there's some reports that there were some conflicts between him and Kathleen regarding the script and some creative differences, as they always like to say. I think what we're finding now is that Hollywood has gone in this direction where it has two extremes. You no longer have any mid-level budgeted movies anymore. You've got either straight indies, movies that are only made with a couple $1 million, or you have straight up tentpole mega $1 million budget movies. You've got your Transformers, you've got your Marvel films, you've got your DC films, which I'll get to a little bit later on, your Star Wars. You've got these mega franchises, and I don't want anybody to get confused by this. I am not bashing the tentpole franchises by any means necessary. I love them. I'm a huge fan of the Marvel films. I like the DC characters and where they possibly could be going. I like Star Wars, obviously. But the thing is, there needs to be more of a mixture of some of those things. For example, I think pretty much what I'm trying to say is that you need the big tentpole films. I am not anti-tentpole. You need those mega $1 million franchises to bring in the bucks regarding the box office. You have to sell tickets. And when you sell tickets, you create a profit. When you make a profit, then you can reinvest in other projects and films, such as the smaller budget films. Without the Star Wars and the Marvels and the what have you, you wouldn't get the smaller films that come out every now and then that we absolutely love. But what I do think we do need to do, as a consumer anyway, we need to find those mid-cap level films, such as a Girls Trip that came out in the middle of summer, which is, by the way, a great movie. It is hilarious. Probably my favorite comedy of the year thus far. Great movie. Those are the types of movies we need to support. And by support, I mean go see and fund with our hard-earned cash and dollars. Because that's the only thing that the executives see. They see results, they see money, they see box office. That's it. That's how they gauge the audience. And the way that we consume things tells to them where they need to invest their dollars. And right now, what are we telling them? We're telling them that all we like to see are Marvel films Star Wars films, Transformers films, Pirates of the Caribbean films, James Bond films, so on and so forth. So now moving on to DC and its situation, and it was announced probably about a week ago now that they are going to be exploring their own cinematic universe, but also they're going to, as well, they're going to have some side standalone films as well that they're not at all connected with their cinematic universe. Is this a good move? Initially, I didn't think so. Initially, I was kind of like everybody else. I kind of reacted the same way, that knee-jerk reaction. What are you doing? Everybody's going to get confused. We can't do this. We can't have, we're going to have two Jokers. We don't need two movie Jokers, what have you. And besides the fact that I don't think Joker needs to be a protagonist in any story, besides that fact, disregard that, I think the idea is a good idea. I think the application, like most things that DC and their cinematic universe anyway are doing now and will be doing, I think their execution may be a little flawed. I think their direction may be a little flawed. But me personally, I think I'm coming around to the idea, because with Marvel, with Star Wars, with these issues that they're running into with these young directors, that is a great way to jump on and snatch that talent up. If you have a mega franchise with an extremely popular character, and all these comic book characters are only getting more and more popular, and then you go to a young director who has a lot of talent, who you know is skilled, and you offer them to, like, say, Matt Reeves, and you say, here's a Batman, and you have no ties to this cinematic universe that we've already created a story for. Create us a Batman in the same vein as Christopher Nolan, and do with it what you will. Something like that is extremely enticing to a young director, and a young writer for that matter. If we could do these, one of the best things about Wonder Woman was the fact that it was only loosely tied to the DCEU. DC does not seem to have the same mechanism in place as Marvel does to create a unified story. So maybe instead of going with trying to do something that's already been done and already been perfected by Marvel, maybe they need to forge their own path, go against the grain, because everybody's trying to create their own cinematic universe nowadays. Everybody's, whether it's the Monsterverse, whether it's King Kong and Godzilla and the Creatureverse, why not take a group of characters that are extremely popular right now and forge their own destiny? They don't have to be connected. DC kind of fell into the bait with Marvel, and reasonably so, because we all wanted it, and we all want to see a Justice League. We all want to see Batman versus Superman. But their application and their execution of it has not worked out well for them. But one thing they've always done is they've always made extremely strong single standalone stories, whether it's Superman or Batman. Wonder Woman, or one of the strongest aspects of Wonder Woman, was the fact that for the most part it was a standalone origin story about Wonder Woman. Maybe DC's on to something. Maybe DC does need to do something like this and see where this DCEU goes, but also start establishing these characters as their own standalone franchises in their own right. That'll do it for this edition of Podcast Shorts. Coming up, I will be doing a fall television preview. I'm going to break it up over the next several weeks. So throughout the entire month of September, I will have new content related to the return of television, which I'm sure everybody is just excited about. That's right, pumpkin pie football on TV. It's coming back around to us. I'll catch you guys on the next edition of Podcast Shorts.